Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening. Welcome here to Salam Media. This is Local Matters with myself, Ahmed Kaji. We are together for just over an hour, right through until 9 p.m. Local Matters is all about the local government elections, local service delivery, and with that also comes the elections heading into the 4th of November 2026. A big part of what we are going to see is messages coming through from political parties over our social media platforms, that be Facebook, X, Instagram, and WhatsApp messages, which generally means there will be lots of information going out to everyone who will be going through to the elections. But it also means there is potential for misinformation, disinformation, fake news, deep fakes, all of that will be taking place, that could potentially be making its way into our news feeds on our social media platforms. And this is always a bit of a challenge for many of us. And this is where digital literacy normally would come into the conversation. And speaking to us about that, we are now joined by Moxie Africa's director, William Bird, for this conversation to give us a bit more insight into digital literacy. William, thank you very much for your time this evening here on Star Media. It's greatly appreciated.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me on the program.
William, the big question everyone really wants to know with regards to digital literacy, what exactly do we mean when we talk about that in the context of our local government elections?
So, effectively, when you go learn to drive a car, for example, you have to go and do a driver's test. You learn the rules of the road and you learn what to do and what not to do. And it's, in fact, a very similar thing when you look at digital literacy. Everyone has access to, well, increasingly most people have access to some kind of device that connects to the internet. We have access to social media. And what digital literacy is essentially understanding what the rules of the internet are. The sort of things you can do, the sort of things you should avoid, the sort of things that are generally really bad for you, and the sort of things that are really good and beneficial to you. And so digital literacy really is understanding how to behave as a responsible citizen online, how to make sure that you don't fall victim to scams, how to make sure that you aren't deceived, and how to, in this particular context, how to make sure that you're getting credible, reliable, and accurate information.
What are some of the key themes which you have seen with regard to digital literacy? There's been misinformation, disinformation. Has there been more? Has there been less? I guess AI has been a big part of what we are going to see in this election compared to previous ones.
So there's no doubt. I mean, mis and disinformation aren't new, right? These are concepts that have been with us since people basically. But what is new is the ability and the speed at which it can be spread and shared. And with AI, the ability to make it almost undiscernible or impossible or very hard to discern from reality. So you also have a bizarre scenario where mis and disinformation are actively incentivized by the social media platforms. So people that spread harm, people that do that kind of content are actively rewarded depending on the kind of content, on the kind of platform. So if you look at a platform like X, for example, it actively rewards people that spread sexism, racism, misogyny, those kinds of ideas. They earn money to do those kinds of things. And so when you look at mis and disinformation, it's not surprising that we've seen an explosion of this on social media. So, the World Economic Forum talks about mis and disinformation as the biggest risk to the global scenario. It's something that even the very wealthy think is a real problem, and you can understand why, right? And that's because we've seen how, in different contexts, it can have very significant consequences. It can be from something that's fairly harmless to something that can lead to real loss of life. In South Africa, we witnessed just recently this emergence of March and March. You've got people that are actively xenophobic and Afrophobic, using negative, harmful stereotypes about migrants. They come here, they take all of our jobs. There are 15 million Nigerians in South Africa, that kind of nonsense, which is linked to people's emotional responses, and the consequence of that, of course, is that people then fear that, and they then are likely to believe that. And that's where mis and disinformation are also really interesting, Because for me to believe something that you tell me, if you do a news story, I need to know the facts, I need to know who was there, and I'll determine the credibility of that. For disinformation, they don't need to get you to believe it. All they need to get you to do is to doubt, right? So when they say vaccines don't work, they don't have to prove and make you believe that vaccines don't work. They just have to make you sufficiently scared that vaccines may not, in fact, work. And then they've achieved their purpose, which is getting you to either not be them or not know how to act or respond. And so when we look at elections, disinformation there is going to look like things where they say the IEC is rigging results, the ANC is rigging the elections, XYZ party is rigging the elections. Now, if you look at how our elections are run, they're set up in a way that is almost impossible to actually rig them and have a material impact on the results. The only way you could do it would be to effectively bribe thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people at every stage of the chain. And there's no way that you could ever do that and hope to possibly keep that a secret. So even in your best case scenario, you would find it extraordinarily difficult to rig our elections because of the various protections and mechanisms and transparency that's built into them. But of course, for disinformation to work, all they have to do is get you to doubt that the elections are free and fair, and then they've won half the battle. And what is their purpose? They want you to not be sure about democracy. They want you not to ask difficult questions. They want you not to think about rights, about democracy, about due process, about how to build our society, because more often than not, those that are spreading disinformation are actively trying to build some kind of ideas or promote some kind of society that doesn't believe in fundamental rights and dignity and equality. The most obvious proponent of this, of course, is that lying, orange-haired, lunatic, misogynist Donald Trump in America, who uses disinformation as a matter of course, right? He just, so many of the things, in fact, that he probably um, says more lies than he actually speaks truths whenever he does talk. And again, the consequence of that is that he goes on this idea that it's a strong man that builds up the sense of what's real and what isn't. He himself undermines democracy by consistently saying how the elections were stolen. And we can expect similar kinds of approaches to take place in South Africa. So this is, it's a very serious thing because it has a very significant societal level where it could potentially impact the free and fairness of our elections. But it's also something that on a very direct personal level, people, all of us can be susceptible to mis or disinformation, whether it's about them saying, "Oh, you can't go and vote in your elections this year or tomorrow because there's violence in the ward, and if you go there, there's people that are shooting guns and whatever." And you might think, "Oh my goodness, I can't go vote because there's violence," and you might see a video of violence, and yet that'll be AI generated. So that kind of thing can be something that can affect a society and our elections, to something that can affect individuals.
Speaking towards fact checking, we obviously generally told, if you get a WhatsApp message, if you see something on X, on Facebook or Instagram, head through and investigate it. What generally is the best way for someone to do that? How do we spot fake news, misinformation, disinformation? Because it's one thing to say these are the things we should look out for. What's the best way to really fact check?
So there are a number of mechanisms, and some of them are like high grade and others are fairly basic. But the starting point is, the thing that disinformation relies on is it doesn't want you to think, right? Because the moment you think, hang on a minute, there can't possibly be 15 million Nigerians in South Africa, the moment you interrogate it even slightly, the whole argument falls apart, right? And it's the same with all of the disinformation that gets spread. So the question is to say what disinformation does is it uses emotions and heightened emotions to stop you from thinking carefully, rationally, and logically. So it either likes to make you incredibly angry or fearful or anxious or scared. And in doing so, it stops you from thinking and taking a logical response to, sorry, excuse me, to whatever the issue is. So the first thing to think about is, if you get a WhatsApp or a post or whatever and you see it and you think, oh my goodness, this is terrible, like in the scenario I gave you where you pretend tomorrow's election day and they say there's violence there, you immediately go, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. Do I go out? Do I risk it? What that's doing is it's working on your fear. So the first thing to do is when you get some kind of a post that works, makes you scared, makes you anxious, makes you angry, pause, go back, and then go and look at credible media sites to see if that's there. Because you can bet that if there was that kind of violence in your area, the media, the IEC, others would be reporting on it. So the first thing is, if it makes you feel heightened emotions, pause, go have a cup of tea, think about life, look at a nice, happy video of a cat or whatever makes you feel happy and calm, then come back and then assess it again before you even think about sharing that. Then, if you think it's a problem, then you go and you can report it to Real 411, which is the official platform this year for the complaints about elections. Alternatively, you can carry on and then do your own checks. So, if it's an image or video, that kind of thing, simple thing to do is go and do a Google image reverse search. It's easy. You can type it into your search bar. You copy and paste the picture, and you look for that picture. You type in Google reverse search, you paste the image, and away you go, and it'll soon tell you if that image is real or if it's from protests some time ago. So one of the things you'll see this year is going to be allegations. They'll say, oh, we found these ballot boxes in a field. And chances are, if you go and you look for those ballot boxes, you'll find that that footage was filmed several years ago after the elections when something got dumped or whatever the case may be, right? So the thing is go do basic reverse search, check your emotions, pause. If you're not sure, report it. And then the other next critical step is go to your credible media sources. If they aren't covering it, if they aren't talking about it, send it to them, ask them to do it. Otherwise, you can do a bit more digital forensics, see if it's using AI. There's all sorts of things. So there's the basic things to high level things you can do.
In a few minutes' time, I'm going to ask you about Moxie Africa's role with regards to the IEC and SANEF going on forward. But a bit more on the interpersonal side, many people would generally receive messages on a WhatsApp group, and generally it's from people that they normally would trust.
Yeah.
What does that interpersonal relationships look like to say, look, I think this information needs to be verified? How do you normally suggest that be done?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, all of us in our families, we've got someone who will send us thing, and usually it's a relative, it's our moms, it's our aunts, it's our cousin, sister, brother. They'll send us something and you go, oh my goodness. And because it's coming from someone that you do love and trust, your default of thinking, well, this is nonsense, is going to be that much more skeptical. So again, if it's about elections, if it's about something that isn't, if it's gossip about your family, you can probably be sure that it's probably true, right? But if it's gossip or something about an elections item, if it's something about violence or whatever, and they're saying, look, this is something I've just received, chances are you say to them, listen, I think this may be problematic. Before I share this on, I'm going to get this checked out somewhere, or I'm going to send it to our local media, I'm going to report it, and hopefully we can check it. So the thing is you've got to just make sure that you don't embarrass or humiliate the people that share it with you, because unless they're a vindictive cousin or uncle or whatever, chances are they're not out to make you look like a fool. Chances are they think they're doing something genuinely good by sharing that. And the research that's been done in South Africa shows that people share it because they think they're being helpful, right? So what you can do with a higher level of digital literacy is say, hang on a minute, there's something about this doesn't quite add up. Look at the images, look to see, do those people look familiar? Do the people in that picture really look like they're all South African? Does it look like my shopping center around me? All sorts of things that just sort of get down, get critical, interrogate that thing before you send it, and then say, Auntie, this is what I found. I don't think you should be sharing this, just so you know.
Wonderful. I think that's going to be very insightful for many people who will be heading into election season over the next few months or so. Bringing back to what you're doing, your representation in terms of what Moxie Africa is doing, perhaps you can take me through your role in the elections coming up.
So this year it's really exciting actually, because Real 411 is, so the first thing that's a significant shift for the IEC is that they're going to have a disinformation code. It hasn't yet been promulgated, but we can expect it any day now. And that's a really important step, because it says that the IEC recognizes disinformation is a very real threat. And it means that if a political party or a candidate or something is guilty of spreading that, they can be reported in the most extreme cases to the electoral court. And if you look at the powers of our electoral court, there's several things they can do. They can fine a political party. They can do all sorts of things, including in the most extreme case, they can deregister a political party if they think that the offence is sufficiently worrying and egregious. So the disinformation code is a really important step that's going to come into place that political parties are going to be bound by and adhere to. And it's a very important step to try and mitigate the impact of online harm, particularly mis and disinformation. Now, for people to report that, the platform that they're going to report to is called real411.org. You go there, it takes you 30 seconds, maybe a minute to report it, and you'll see that that goes through a process. And if, for example, something you report is found to be disinformation, it'll go to the IEC. The IEC can then decide if they're going to take it to the electoral court or what other action they can determine that they think they should be taking. Similarly, we can get the platforms to take it down. So that's part of what we're doing. The other thing is that together with South African National Editors Forum and entities like Africa Check, we've got another 15 or so other partners, including the CSIR and various other forensics experts. We've got something called PI, which is the Partnership on Information Integrity in Elections. People that have got expertise in around information integrity, so digital forensics, etc. If you want to be part of this, you're very welcome. And the goal of this really is to make sure that if we're doing some work and we can find one thing, we can then link it to another group that's doing another thing. So if you think about it, with us as a partner, we're looking at some of the cases of disinformation. Africa Check's doing fact checks, and SANEF is part of the media, so they can help share that and get that information out there. By bringing on digital forensics experts, it means that they can analyze who's behind it, maybe expose the network. And so really the idea is that even though each of us are relatively small partners, if we all work together, we can hopefully have a greater impact. So that's part of it. We also then, there's a political ad repository. So for those of you that are interested in how and where the money flows, if you go to padre.org, which is the political ad repository, you can see which political parties have been spending money on Google and Meta and how much money they've been spending. You can look at all their adverts and you can see the kind of content that they are putting out there in order to persuade people if something's an ad, to whether or not you want to vote for a party. And then, of course, we're monitoring around 70 different media to see how they cover the elections and to see if they cover them in a free, fair manner.
It seems that the elections dynamic has changed, at least since the last 2 years. Over the last 5 years, it's changed dramatically. What are your expectations and perhaps your views heading into the November elections?
I mean, I think that people are very disenchanted with democracy. We've seen that in South Africa and internationally as well. Voter turnout, I think we can expect that to decline again, unfortunately. And that's a sad thing because, this is the best form of electing government anywhere in the world, So I think we can expect a lower voter turnout. I think we can also see a significant decline in the ANC. I mean, I think that that's been predicted across any of the polls that are there. Importantly, I think that this issue of Afrophobia, migrants being a scapegoat for various problems is going to be picked up on by a number of parties. There's a very real chance that that kind of thing, that kind of incitement and harmful content that's being perpetuated by entities like March and March, that will be a factor that may contribute either to violence or to intimidation of people. I think from other external appearances, I mean, the IEC are easily one of the best electoral management bodies anywhere in the world, and that's something that we don't give them enough credit for. Of course, they're going to get things wrong. It's it's staffed by people, and all of us make mistakes, etc. But overwhelmingly, I think that they are going to be prepared. If you look at some of the figures that they deal with, and this is just a small aside, but it's, there's something like 9,000, they're just under 10,000 wards that are up for grabs in these upcoming elections. It's something like 9,007 or 9,800 wards, something like that. And for each of them, the candidates, the IEC is busy preparing for 100,000 candidates. So you can see how come election results day, you're going to have more than an FNB stadium full of people that are very unhappy with the outcome of the elections, and those are the kinds of things that I think we've got to navigate quite carefully. Aside from that, I think that we've got media that, despite their incredible limitations, they are committed to these things. Entities like yours. I mean, we saw you at the you saw Salam Media at the Results Operations Center in 2024, out there doing interviews. The media, they work off their socks to try and bring elections to us in a free, fair, and credible manner. I think that's almost certainly going to be the case again. So we've got this kind of, it's South Africa, right? So we're full of crazy opposites and crazy, extremes, where we'll have people that'll be utterly dismayed and disinterested in elections, and then you've got media and other people and other members of the public who are deeply passionate about our democracy and around protecting, building, and deepening what we have, because what we have is actually incredibly special and well worth retaining. I think it's going to be a mixed bag of all of those things: the wonderful, the appalling, the terrifying, and the extraordinary.
William Bird, thank you very much for your time this evening. Great insight into what we can expect over the elections. We really appreciate your time this evening. Thanks very much.
Look forward to joining you again.
Thanks very much. Cheers. That's William Bird, the director at Moxii Africa, taking us through misinformation, disinformation, and everything around digital literacy heading into the local government elections in November. It's going to be a very interesting space over the next 3 to 4 months. And it's important to just understand what exactly goes into digital literacy and when to spot fake news, disinformation, and misinformation. If you happen to miss this conversation, it is available on our social media platforms and on our website as well. It's 10 minutes past 8 p.m. Central African time here on Salam Media. Please stay tuned here.
Searching for